Hey y'all, today I wanted to explain the difference between exotic versus exotical because I feel like every other day I'm going in the comment section and I'm explaining what it means to somebody who's either new to the channel or I don't know, because we keep explaining what the difference is, because there is a difference. Let me just explain it what the difference is. So, exotic, it simply means you look different than the people who are around you. So, my personal example of this, I'm a monoracial, light brown skinned, caramel complected woman with natural type 4 hair that's straightened with a relaxer. My phenotype looks something like Aaliyah, Beyonce, Sierra, that phenotype, right? So when I was in the army, the military, about 10 years ago, damn, it's been 10 years. It's been 8 years, I think. It hasn't been 10. We got deployed overseas to Europe. So I stayed in Europe for like 8 months. We were in Poland and Germany for that time. When we were in Poland, right, I was the most, because they never seen black people before. In the town we were in, it was one of the smaller towns. So they're not used to seeing black people. So whenever we would go shopping in the local neighborhoods, they would be staring at me like I was just an alien to them. Like, in America, that would have just been called rude. The way they were just all up in my face staring at me like they couldn't believe they was looking at me. We even went to this event that they were performing for the soldiers. There were kids at this school that they wanted to perform for us because the soldiers were in town. So they had this big thing for us. The news was there. And I remember a couple of the girls at the school was like, can they touch my hair? So they were just fascinated. At the time, my hair was in an afro. I had my hair all natural. I was all natural at that time. So I had an afro. And they was like, can they touch it? So exotic just simply means you look different than the people that are around you. That's why when somebody from a foreign country comes to America, they are often called exotic. Okay? Exoticals, that's a whole different term. Exoticals is a community of women on YouTube who experience hate strictly from people in our community, unambiguous people in our community, strictly due to our phenotype. And our phenotypes, exoticals are either they're mixed or they look like they're mixed. So they benefit from an ism. An ism is either colorism, texturism, or featureism. Exoticals benefit from either one or more than one of those, or all three of them. And because of this, we often get ostracized, especially from unambiguous black women. Unambiguous just simply means people know you're black. There's no question, you're black. But in exotical, often we'll get, are you mixed with something? So if people come up to you and ask you, what are you mixed with? And you're a black woman or you're mixed, you're an exotical. That's the term. Exoticals is a slang term that was given to us as something to make fun of us about. And we just reclaimed the term. It took power over it back. And we created this community because all exoticals, we were ostracized from the unambiguous community. We were all, if you often get told you're not black enough, if you get told you're not black enough to talk about these type of issues, the exotic community is for you because, yes, you're black, but because you're maybe lighter complected, or maybe because you have some admixture mixed into your blood, so you don't look like the average black person. Like people there's no question what a black person looks like, but what a mixed person experience is in the black community, or somebody who gets mistaken for a mixed race, their experience in the black community is often either ostracized, at the same time pedestalized. How does that work? Pretty in between. How does that work? That's a good question, right? So how it works is, because we are so pedestalized by, and it's mainly the male gaze. This has more to do with the male gaze than anything, for real. Because we get pedestalized by unambiguous black men in our community. So as a result of this, we get ostracized by our female counterparts, our unambiguous women in the community, because we get better treatment from them than they do. Everybody knows there's a distinction between what an exotical and an unambiguous woman. Our experiences are completely different. And exotical, like I said, because we benefit from an ism. And in the black community, if you benefit from an ism, you're pedestalized. They call it, if you have the good hair, it's called good hair. If your hair, you have the looser curl. And if you're light skinned, you're automatically going to be called pretty for the most part in the black community, automatically. Our experiences is completely different than an unambiguous person is. Like, our shared experiences as exoticals, dealing with pretty privilege, dealing with bullying because of how we look, our phenotypes. It's like we never felt like we fit in with the black community fully. So we created this community on YouTube called Exoticals, so we can have that sense of belonging. Because when you're an exotical, when you're a mixed looking black person, you often get, it depends on the situation. Like if you're Barack Obama, for example, you're the first black president. But if somebody like Tyler calls herself black, she can't call herself black because she's benefiting from things that unambiguous women don't get to benefit from. I remember that being a conversation at one point, but are both of them mixed race? So it's only okay for a mixed race person to claim being black when it's convenient, like being president. But if you're benefiting too much, like if you're getting all the roles in Hollywood and you're lighter complected, or you benefit from an ism, if you're an exotical and you get the roles in Hollywood, you can't claim yourself as black because you're taking away from the black women who are darker or more unambiguous than you. That is the exact extinction between us. That's the difference between us. They made that difference between us. We are taking roles away from them if we take a role that was meant for an unambiguous black woman. So we are being separated from them. It's convenient for them, you understand. So we created community so we can feel like we don't have to get thrown in and out of blacklists. We're convenient. We have that right to do it ourselves because we have that privilege, because our phenotypes allow us to be diverse, and we could play with our phenotype. We could get away with different looks. I could get away with wearing type 3C curls because people would think it's my real hair because of how I look. I look like I could pass for mixed race, even though I'm not mixed race exactly. I'm like 90% black, okay? But because of that little 10%, my phenotype looks so different to the point where my experiences as a black woman I can't relate to the unambiguous people, but I'm still monoracially black, but I have a whole different experience. I don't know what it's like to be called ugly because of the color of my skin. I don't know what that feeling is like to be told I'm not pretty for a black girl or dark skinned girl. I've never even heard that before unless I'm hearing one of their experiences on like a YouTube video. I can't relate to that experience, but I can relate to pretty privilege only because the black community pedestalizes our phenotype so much that we automatically get labeled pretty. My grandma told me I was too light skinned to wear makeup. What does that imply? When I was younger, my grandma said that to me when I was doing my makeup. She said, I'm too light skinned for makeup. What that means is I'm too pretty. Like, why is my skin complexion not like, why don't I have to wear makeup to be because I'm light skinned? That automatic, do you guys understand? Like, they automatically think light skin is pretty, so we experience pretty privilege by default of that mindset. But that's the difference, y'all. The experiences are completely different. And also, people would be like, oh, you guys are black, you can't be exotic, because they still think exotical and exotic be the same thing. So in their arguments, they're saying stuff like this, but we don't pedestalize whiteness in this community. We don't pedestalize whiteness. What connects exoticals to each other is the fact that we do have blackness in our blood. That's the one thing all exoticals have in common is our blackness. So when people be like, you're black, you can't be exotic. First of all, you can be black and exotic. Go to another country, go to a European country, you'll find that out real quick. So you can just tell the mindset of somebody who says something like that. Like, do you think blackness is a handicap? Do you think blackness is something to not be beautiful? Like, being black is beautiful. I think that's what actually makes exoticals look the most beautiful is the black, because we have a different mixture of races in our phenotype. But I feel like, and this is just my opinion, what stands out our features the most is the black features mixed with the non-black features. Like, for real. I feel like black people who have black in their blood are the most beautiful people on the planet. And I'm just being honest. We have a very unique look. The mixture of black and non-black features is what makes exoticals look so beautiful. And we're allowed to express ourselves and love the way that we look. That's another reason why we have this community. The Exoticals is just a community on YouTube of women with shared experiences in dealing with pretty privilege and being thrown in and out of blackness, or just being either ostracized, pedestalized because of how you look. We experience different privileges than unambiguous women don't experience. We experience light skin privilege, pretty privilege. And most unambiguous women for years have been telling us online how they don't experience pretty privilege because of their complexion. But there's darker skinned women who don't have that experience also because they benefit probably from featureism. So do you see how pretty privilege is associated with being an exotical? Exoticals benefit from an ism, texturism, featureism, or colorism. Like, our phenotypes are automatically associated with being pretty, good hair, light skin. It's almost, people think it's inherent that you're beautiful, even when a baby is first born. What is the first thing that they're gonna do? They're gonna look at the baby's ear, see if they're getting darker. Or, I've heard light-skinned babies get way more compliments, way more likes on social media. They'll get told they're beautiful all of the time. But, darker skinned people, unambiguous darker skinned women claim all of the time that they don't even know what that feels like to experience pretty privilege. But that's all I know. Because that's how they treat us in this community. Like, pretty privilege is just given to us automatically. And we didn't create that. That's just how we've been brought up since birth. Since birth, we've been told how beautiful we are because of the way that we look. Of course, we're going to grow up with confidence. You understand? So that's the difference, you guys. For those who don't understand the difference between exotic and exotical. Exoticals are the black women in the community who aren't black enough to be all the way in the community. But because if we take roles, for example, in Hollywood, they'll be like, she's too light-skinned or she's too ambiguous to take this role. This role should have went to somebody more unambiguous. But she's a monoracial black woman. She's just lighter skinned, or she's just, her hair texture's looser or something. Whatever makes her not all the way unambiguous is what makes her an exotical, because she's being treated like an other. She's being ostracized because she's not black enough. Or people get confused what you're mixed with. If people even have to wonder, they'll be just staring for hours trying to figure out what else is that girl mixed with. But we're just a group of women online who create a community because everybody needs a sense of community. And we got that through this space. At least I found my sense of community in this space. I actually feel seen and heard and validated in this space. Me not being black enough shouldn't make me not be included into the black community, because I always felt bullied. I've always gotten bullied or just purposely excluded from the table simply because I have a lighter skin complexion. And so it's just, what are we supposed to do? Especially for years when we try to, even to the point where we get called light-skinned saviors. For our light-skinned saviors, our former light-skinned saviors out there, I was one of them. But I just felt like it wasn't returned. Like, I could defend a dark-skinned woman all day long, but they won't defend us in the same way. And I would notice that. But I thought because I benefit from privileges that I'm just it's okay. For the longest time, I actually thought this subconsciously. Before the exotical space was formed, subconsciously, I knew that I was lighter skinned and I was treated better than them. So I understood a lot of the times why they would lash out at us, and I would kind of almost accept it but it's just really not okay to accept being treated a certain way by something you can't even control. I couldn't control that I was born like this. I'm still black though. Like, black is not a monolith, but they act like it is. So because of that, we just created a space for us to feel like we belong to somewhere. Because even non-black people treat us a certain way too. If you are black and you benefit from light skin privilege, and let's say you're exoticals, what also connects us is the fact that a lot of us are for the most part black passing. And because of this, because we still look black, but there's just something about us that makes us look so like we attract male attention from non-black men from all races, right? And because of this, non-black women will give us a hard time too. So it's like we don't really fit in anywhere because our phenotype is literally a threat to people. Because it's like, for non-black women, it's like, how dare you be black, beautiful, and looking better than I do? That's the vibes I get from non-black women. Not all, of course. And I don't mean not all to all of this. And I can't believe I have to say not all, but not all. So I have to say it, right? But from the non-black women, I definitely get that vibe from most of them. Like, how dare you be black and beautiful than me, because you're not supposed to be pretty and black. So, I mean, what do you do when you feel like you don't belong to somewhere? You get with the people who feel the same way and who can relate to your experience, and you bond and you create community. So, for the people who are mad at us for creating a space for ourselves and only promoting ourselves, I mean, that's what we're supposed to do, self-love and all of that. I mean, like I said, I feel validated in this space. People think because we have the male gaze that that's supposed to be something that we should be grateful for or something. Because men with a long head, thick red bone, we get mistreated for that because of the male gaze. I didn't ask Lil Wayne to rap that in his music. That's not my fault. He likes long head, thick red bones. His baby mama was black, and she was a dark-skinned black woman. So I feel like a lot of these artists, first of all, Lil Wayne doesn't even write his own lyrics. I don't know if people didn't know that or not, but he don't write his own music, first of all. And, you know, yeah, he does date lighter-skinned women, but a lot of these artists just be talking when they be rapping. Trust me, I would know. I date one. But trust and believe me, you guys. I think there's an agenda. There's a white I don't even know if I can say this on YouTube without getting flagged. But there's an agenda out there. And we all know this. But for some reason, the backlash comes to Exoticals. Like, so it's not our fault that there's this white supremacy issue going on. It's not our fault. And the thing about representation in Hollywood, because that's also another reason why we get mistreated, because it's like we get more privileges in Hollywood than them. But it's like when an unambiguous black woman gets an opportunity in Hollywood and actually gets a lead role, they don't get supported like that. In fact, they make fun of this person and be like, somebody else should represent them instead. So it's just the craziest thing in the world. Like that lady from Romeo and Juliet, the unambiguous woman who played Juliet, they was making fun of her. I was like, isn't this what you guys were fighting for? Your phenotypes to be represented as the main leads? Isn't that what y'all been fighting for? We've been helping fighting with y'all as well, for the most part. What y'all call light-skinned saviors. For the longest time, we would even not take roles. I forgot who didn't take a certain role. There was a celebrity who purposely didn't take, I think it was Zendaya. She purposely didn't want to take a certain role because she didn't want to take away from darker skinned black women. And the thing about Hollywood, she can control the casting call. So she can step down from that role all she wants, but the director is just going to hire somebody else who looks to that description that they're looking for. It's Hollywood that has to change. She can step down for that role all she wants, but they're just going to find somebody else who looks like her because that's who they was looking for in the first place. As a casting director, you're looking for a very specific look. And that's Hollywood that we have to deal with when it comes to colorism. If it's about us being represented more, light-skinned people being represented more, I think that has more to do with an issue within Hollywood than the actual Exoticals themselves. we have every right to represent ourselves in this community, in this space. Because that's what we're supposed to do. You guys are supposed to do the same thing, unambiguous Black women. In your spaces, you're supposed to self-promote yourselves as well. That's just what we're supposed to do. But people get mad at us when we do it. Because it's like, y'all already getting too much attention. A lot of this has to do with the male gaze, and y'all know it. The Hollywood thing, y'all been getting roles in Hollywood. Y'all just don't support the people like Viola Davis. Viola Davis, she has her own fight in Hollywood that she's been talking about within Hollywood. She hasn't heard, but she has gotten through, you know. But she doesn't get the same love from people in the Black community as somebody who's lighter skinned. It's just funny how unambiguous people want themselves to be more represented when they don't even help represent themselves. So I don't get it. That's what I say when I say we get pedestalized and ostracized at the same time. Because they feel like we're taking all the attention. So at the expense of that, they kind of want to push us away. So, because when something's too bright, what do you automatically do? Your eyes want to look away from it because it's making your eyes go blind. So when something is too bright, you kind of want to push it away if you're not as bright. So that's just, I guess, a response to us being pedestalized. But it's something that we didn't create. We don't even... Whenever I hear somebody tell a light-skinned person, "Oh, you think you better than us?" that person often has never said anything even close to thinking that they're better. That would give me the impression that they think they're better. They don't even talk about their own skin complexions like darker skinned people do. Skin complexion is only brought up, in my experience, by a darker skinned person. I promise. Light-skinned people don't talk about skin color like this. The only reason why we're talking about it in this space is because it has been projected onto us for so long. And we've been silent about it for so long. Just allowing people to lash and express themselves about how much they don't like Exoticals, they dislike us because somebody took their boyfriend when they was a child, and they resent light-skinned women for that reason. And that reason only, the male gaze. A lot of this stuff, if it wasn't for the male gaze, I feel like we would get along a lot better. But for so many years, we've allowed, I guess out of guilt, light-skinned guilt, we've allowed them to just talk badly about us and let it be okay because we feel guilty for benefiting from certain privileges that we couldn't even control in the first place. We can't control that when we were born, that when our ears didn't get darker, our family members were so excited about that because they were going to be light-skinned, and we were pedestalized because of it. We were treated better by one of our parents because we were lighter than our sibling. We didn't control that, but we feel the guilt of that. That was put onto us. A lot of the times by unambiguous dark-skinned Black women, too. I've heard Black men say this about their mothers. Dark-skinned unambiguous Black men talk about their mothers being colorist towards them. Like, they'll joke about themselves to each other. So, they got to put themselves on a pedestal or nobody else. If they're going to talk bad about themselves, I mean, it has to start with them. They have to learn self-love. And I'm not talking about all. Of course not. There's a lot of Black unambiguous women who love themselves. I'm not talking about y'all. Obviously, I'm not. If the shoe don't fit, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of the times, colorism is only brought up by an unambiguous person. So, to end this video, because I'm just kind of ranting at this point, just to reiterate the difference between exotic and an exotical. Exotic means you look different from the people around you. You could be unambiguously black and go to Europe and be called exotic. Okay? That's just what it's going to be. Because you look different than them. They're going to admire you. You're probably going to take it the wrong way and think they're making fun of you. Because I've actually seen one dark-skinned girl go to Europe and talk about how the people kept staring at her and everything. She took it the wrong way, though. She took it as they was making fun of her, but they was really just admiring how she looked. Because I was listening to her story, and she went through some of the same things I went through. But nothing was necessarily said bad about her. She just projected that feeling of they must be talking about me in a negative way. It can't be in a positive way. Or they can't be admiring. They can't be just staring at me because, trust and believe me, they love dark-skinned people for the most part in some of these European countries. They love Kanye West over there. They love them some Kanye West. But you can get exotified if you go to a foreign, like if you're black and go to Europe. I'm telling you. So, or you're from another country and you come to America. You're going to be exotified because you look different than the people around you, right? Exoticals is a space on YouTube, a community of women on YouTube who benefit from certain privileges. Pretty privilege, light skin privilege, texturism privilege. We don't have the same experiences as our unambiguous counterparts. We have a clear difference in our phenotypes because of our admixture. Exoticals have some admixture in them that makes them look different than the average African American black woman or black male in America. I can only talk about my experience being an African American. So the majority of African Americans are unambiguous, but if you're mixed race or you look mixed race, you stand out from the black community. I have this video called the light-skinned sheep of the family because the original phrase is the black sheep, the person who's ostracized that looks different. But the lighter skinned person in the black family is often the one that stands out, the one that's ostracized, pedestalized at the same time because they look so different than everybody else. So it's this back and forth battle, getting thrown in and out of blackness and all of that. There's you grow up with a whole guilt complex and everything. So if you benefit from an ism, if your hair texture is straighter than your average family members in the family, everybody else has type 4 hair, you're the only one with type 3 hair, you're going to get treated different in your family. You're going to be pedestalized, but at the same time, you're going to be treated badly because of it by people who are jealous of you. That's just bottom line. And the Exoticals, we just have a shared experience in that. We have a different set of traumas that we can't relate to with unambiguous people. Our traumas are completely different, but we're all black. We all have some type of black blood in us, okay? That's the difference between Exoticals and exotic. Exoticals, a lot of the time, were fetishized in a way that unambiguous women aren't fetishized. A lot, because the features that we possess, hence why you will often see Exoticals being the main lead in a music video most of the time. Unambiguous women are always fighting for their spot to be the main lead in a music video. But, oftentimes you will see an Exotical or a non-black woman. But these are the women who we would call Exoticals, the quote-unquote preferred black women. And we're preferred by the unambiguous and non-black men. All races of men fetishize us. So just to reiterate the difference, an Exotical is What an exotical is a space on YouTube. It's a community on YouTube of women with shared experiences within the Black community. And these shared experiences can be pretty privileged because our features are automatically considered beautiful by default within our community. And because of this, we are often mistreated by those who are jealous, envious of us, or just straight up hate, anger towards us for just being born how we are. Because even pretty privileged, unambiguous women know what I'm talking about. When you're more attractive than people, automatically there's this treatment that you get from people who think you're better than them. And because exoticals, our features make us inherently pretty in our community, we get pedestalized by most. At the same time, we're getting hated on by most. So we have this experience where we're always trying to feel like we're trying to belong to our own people. So if you just have this complex about trying to belong as a Black person, it could be a culture thing too, but a lot of the times it's because of your phenotype. I've seen exoticals from the hood try to act as Black as possible just so they could fit in. They would sometimes overdo it. I know some light skinned girls who would tan just so they could fit in. Or it'll be an exotical who benefits from texturism. She has the quote unquote good hair. She'll put a lace front in her hair just so she could fit in. Like, if you always feel like you have to fit in with your own people, most likely you're an exotical woman. So you could be exotic and be any race if you go to a foreign country, if you look different than the people around you. So I think they called us exoticals back then, the unambiguous people, when they was making fun of us because exotic means you do look different. So they put the AL at the end and they just kind of started joking about it, like about us. I think I remember Chrissy talking about Cassie about her. This was like a 5-year-old video, but this was when I was before the exotical space. I was heavily watching Chrissy's content, and I remember one of her videos. She was talking about Cassie. I think I don't remember. I think she was in the thumbnail, anyways. I just remember Cassie, but they would often talk about us, and a lot of it is in response to colorist people, which I can understand that, but to treat all exoticals like that is just, that's where we have a problem, because we have our experiences with bullying with unambiguous Black women, but we're not going to disrespect or mistreat all unambiguous Black women. I'm not going to go to a restaurant and just be mean to the unambiguous waiter because I have trauma behind people who look like her treating me disrespectfully or treating me different. I don't do that, but they do it to us all of the time. You know, for the most part, that's just been my experience. That's been a lot of our experiences. They think exoticals get more attention than them, but it's from the male gaze, though. And the males, this is a whole nother topic, a whole nother video, but a lot of the times, these men who like and prefer long head, thick red bones are usually have internalized self-hate somewhere that they don't want to even admit, or they don't realize. Because why do you have a preference for lighter skinned women? You know, why do they only want to date women who are lighter than them? Youngberg, So these are the conversations that we need to have with them. The unambiguous black men. Why do you guys pedestalize the exoticals over the unambiguous black women in the community? We have to really have that conversation. But to mistreat exoticals because of that, not just not cool. But yeah, I don't want to make this video too long, but I just hope I was able to clarify the difference between exotic and exotical. Exoticals, we have a completely different experience in the black community. You can be dark skinned and be an exotical because you have type 3 hair, or your features make you look like you could possibly pass as a Indian or Hispanic, but you're black somewhere. You have a mixture of blackness in you. So that's kind of what we all really have in common. What we all can relate to is our blackness. We can all relate as exoticals to having blackness within our blood. But this space is just to talk about our experiences and our privileges. We were hounded for years to acknowledge our privileges. We were acknowledged for years to acknowledge our privilege. But what we do is still a problem. So we just can never win as exoticals. It's like we give them what they want, but they don't really know what they want, because when we give it to them, they get mad at us. I'm sorry, I just don't understand that part, because I do remember a lot of unambiguous women to be like, acknowledge your privilege, acknowledge your privilege. And that's what we do on this space for the most part. We talk about our privileges because we do experience. It is interesting because when people used to say that back in the day, like, they'll be like, acknowledge your privilege. I used to think to myself, like, oh, because I grew up with so much guilt behind having certain privileges over other black women. I knew something about me was different. We didn't have the term exoticals yet. I just knew something about me was different than the rest of the black girls as far as the way I was being treated. But, I would feel guilty about that a lot of the times when I was younger. Not anymore, because with there's nothing wrong with having privileges. That's what a lot of people want in this life. People only are mad at privileges that they don't benefit from. I don't benefit from white privilege. I don't benefit from rich privilege. I benefit from the privileges that I benefit from. And I'm going to own them and, play them to my advantage. Play your strengths. I mean, that's just what we do. Use it to your advantage and level up. That doesn't mean we think we're better than other people. That's just a projection when people say that. Because if those same people could wake up tomorrow and be the preference phenotype that they would like to be, and they experience it the same privileges as the person with the phenotype does. Like, if they could go one day being an exotical and experience the privileges of being an exotical, I'm pretty sure they would bathe in it. They would, you know what I'm saying? Like, they would appreciate it and love it. That doesn't necessarily give them a hatred towards people who look unambiguous or non-black. That's not what that does at all. Unless you're just a mean person who just likes to troll, and that's a whole different type of person anyways. And that person usually, for the most part, has internalized issues. So, but for the most part, exoticals are just living their best lives. They're not thinking about, I think I'm better than this person. So, and usually, if that's a person, if you know an exotical like that, they have internalized issues going on within them. Not excusing it, but just understanding what it is. Because there's just no excuse to mistreat anybody, especially for the way that they look. I would never condone that, ever. As somebody who's been bullied for the way that they look, I just don't condone that. I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on. You know, it's about the person's heart, your character. Treat people based off of their character, not the color of their skin, not their phenotype. Allow Exoticals to have our space to talk about our issues because, let's face it, it's taboo for a light-skinned person to talk about having light-skin privilege. It's taboo for a light-skinned black person to love being light-skinned and to actually talk about it with confidence. A lot of that stuff we were just supposed to just not be proud of because you're not going to be pro-black if you do so, because only the white man owns the light skin tone. So just let us have our space. This is why we created it, so we don't have to go over to y'all spaces and talk about it while y'all roll your eyes and like, oh yeah, y'all got it. Y'all think we got it so much better than y'all. So it's like, why are you complaining? We don't want to deal with none of that. This is a safe space for us to just do all of that talking. We can do all the talking, brag on ourselves, love on ourselves with no backlash. So just let us have that, y'all. That's all I really wanted to talk about on here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you for listening.